Namaskar. Once again, welcome you to Sporting Angels Educational Spectrum. This is the political science class for class 10th and we are studying political parties. In the previous videos, we have already talked about the meaning of the political parties and the components of the political parties.
Sure.
Functions of political parties. And having talked about the functions of the political parties, we also talked about the necessity for the why political parties are necessary. Then we talked about the different party systems in different federations. Some federations have got only one party system, and then there are which have got two party system, and then there are which have got multi-party system. We also talked about the national parties and the regional parties or the state parties. I hope you remember the conditions for a national party, that 6% votes in an election for Lok Sabha or 4 seats, right? And for the state parties, you have the condition of 6% from one state or 2 MLAs, 2 seats, right? That is the condition. And apart from that, we also talked about the presence of the national parties. It got to be in at least 4 states of the federation, and of course the regional parties can be in one state. Then we also talked about the alliances, the coalition government. Do you still remember? Okay. Yes. We talked about the national parties and the state parties. See, here I have taken examples of both. We counted those 7 national parties. Do you remember? The BJP, the Trinamool Congress, the Indian National Congress, which is generally known as Congress Party, right? The BSP or the Baspa, the CPI, the CPIM, and of course the NCP. These 7 are taken here examples of the national parties. I have also taken 2 examples of the regional parties here. Do one thing, let me count for you one by one serially so that you remember everything. Okay? Do you remember Trinamool Congress? It was launched by Mamata Banerjee, okay, in 98, and it came to power in Bengal in 2011. You also remember the Bahujan Samaj Party, right? It was launched by Kashiramji, okay, in 84, and of course now it is headed by Miss Mayawati, okay. And third national party yesterday we talked about is Bharti Janta Party. We talked about that it was founded in 1980, right? And from the erstwhile Jansangh it was formed. Do you remember? See, the Jansangh was formed in 1951, but then the old timers will tell you, under the leadership of Jayaprakash Narayan, the Bharatiya Lok Dal, the Jansangh and the other parties combined together in 77 and they came to power. But on the question of Dohri Sadasyata, the party broke, and then of course the erstwhile Jansangh combined together their forces and they formed a Bhartiya Janta Party, which is said to be the largest party in the world today, right? And they are heading the NDA government now. Mr. Modi ji being the Prime Minister, the head of the government. Then we also talked about the CPI, which was formed in pre-independence days in 1925. We also talked that how after the split, the Communist Party Marxist CPIM was formed in 64. And then we talked about the Indian National Congress, which was founded in 1885, and we talked that this is the oldest party in the world. We also talked about NCP, which is being headed by Mr. Sarad Pawar. Then about the state parties, we talked about. See, I gave you the chart as on 13 April 2018. These parties were recognized as the state parties. You can just go through the chart one by one, see the region these parties belong to. Just go through, right? Just see the regions these parties belong to, right? Very carefully you will have to go through these parties. And can you remember the states or the regions they belong to? These are the state parties or the regional parties. This is what we have already covered up in the previous 3 videos. See, having gone through all those previous points, the today's topic will be challenges before the political parties. The political parties today definitely have some challenges if they want to make the democracy really meaningful. See, you are all grown up now. You say the elections even today are going on in the 5 states. And there are 4 or 5 things which you can see that there is no internal democracy in most of the parties today. Do you see any internal democracy in the parties? I as a teacher find them lacking, all of the parties. See, there is a party pretending to be the biggest in the world. But of course the elections are held. But do we really, can we say that they have internal democracy? No. As students and teachers we can see that it is being led by 3 or 4 people, and those are the people who command, others just obey. So that is not a good thing for the democracy. The parties should have internal democracies. And why talk about one party? There are other parties which are rightly blamed for having dynastic problems with them. Their presidents, after presidents, are, I do not know, I should say elected or selected from one family, be it the Congress for many days, be it the Samajwadi Party, be it the even the Baspa, the other parties. So that is again a big problem. It's a big challenge. The succession problem is a big problem. People being favored are kith and kin of the head of the party, and people can see that even after them, the next head of the party will be their relative or their family members. Uh, Parties have money and muscle power playing the game. See, people talk about electoral bonds. Do we really know where the money is coming from? There are parties which have got very less amount when it comes to taking money from the public, and there is a party which counts for more than 90% of the money coming from the public, and the names are not being disclosed. So money and muscle power is again a big challenge for the parties. So the first challenge is internal democracy. Either elections are not held, or if they are held, they just pretend to be holding elections, and the names of the president and other office bearers are already known to that core group whom they would prefer. Then of course the dynastic succession problem is a big problem in the parties, be it Congress, be it the Samajwadi Party, be it the other parties. When we talk about the growing money and muscle power, the problem relates to almost all the parties. The bigger they are, the bigger the problem. And then lack of meaningful choices. See, we say that in a democracy, to make the democracy meaningful, we should have a real choice. Do we really have a real choice today? No. Believe me, in the recent elections, I did not want to vote for a single candidate. But see, somehow as a good citizen of India, I had to vote. So it was all about selecting one who is less corrupt out of the whole corrupted lot. Even this problem is faced by almost all the voters, and people very frankly say now, see, whether you pick this or this or this, corruption is there. So it is all about electing the less corrupted. But if you say that there is no challenge, no. So these four challenges are the major challenges before the political parties. Required, and we shall be talking about those reforms. But first, let's make a note of the challenges the political parties have in front of them.
There are basically four challenges faced by political parties. First one is lack of internal democracy. Concentration of power in one or few leaders at the top. No record of membership registers. No regular internal elections. Ordinary members of the party do not get sufficient information. Personal loyalty to the leaders becomes more important than loyalty to the party. Second one is dynastic succession. Leaders of the party favor people close to them or even their family members. In many parties, the top positions are always controlled by members of one family. As a result, people who do not have adequate experience or popular support come to occupy positions of power. Dynastic succession, in some way or the other, is present all over the world, over in some of the other democracies. Third one is growing role of money and muscle power. Nowadays, the role of money and muscle power is growing in parties. Most of the parties are focused only on winning elections, so they tend to use shortcuts to win elections. Sometimes, candidates are nominated on the basis of their money and muscle power, then people and some companies give funds to the parties and tend to influence the policies and decisions of the party. In some cases, parties support criminals who can win elections. Fourth one is lack of meaningful choice. In the present democratic scenario, no party offers a meaningful choice to the voters. Recently, there has been a decline in the ideological differences among parties if most parts of the country, if most parts of the world, those who want really different policies have no option available to them. For instance, the difference between the Labour Party and the Conservative Party in Britain is very little.
So, these are the challenges before the political parties. There are some reforms which have already been undertaken, and there are some reforms which must be undertaken. About the reforms, we shall be talking about the next video. I hope the challenges before the political parties are pretty clear to you. Thanks for joining.